Hello, everyone. Welcome to Green on the Greens. Special episode, special time of the episode this week. We usually are Tuesdays at 4 p.m. I will not be here tomorrow, so we decided to do it a day early because we got to talk about this one because it's a big week this week. It is the Memorial Tournament. It's the penultimate signature event. It's only this and then the Travelers Championship left in terms of signature events. We got the U.S. Open next week. We're right in the heart of the golf season. So we had to do a show at some point. Cody, thanks for hopping on early. What's going on?
Dude, just ready for this week, man. The Memorial is one of my favorite tournaments of the year. Like if we're ranking signature events, it's this and Genesis. I think is probably the top two like non-majors that we're looking at. I mean, the Players, always has a lot of fun to it, but that's like the major number 4.5, not necessarily a signature event.
Yep. Shout out to Bobby Mack, Lefty Bob, Big Shot Bob last week winning the Canadian Open. Obviously, as a my heritage is Scottish. If a Canadian can't win the Canadian Open, a Scot, especially a lefty Scot, I'm a lefty as well, is the next best thing. So great to see all-time story with his dad on the bag, a real tearjerker there at the end. We love Bobby Mack. Great to see it. Our bets did not do great last week. I called it, and I forget who was in the chat, but myself and everyone in the world was on Alex Noren. And I even think I said at the end of the show last week, he's going to miss the cut. And of course, Alex Noren missed the cut. I did hit Maverick McNeely did have a big Sunday to sneak into the top 10 there. So that was our big winner last week, 3-1 for Maverick McNeely to get a top 10. And that was the Canadian Open. What were your thoughts on the Canadian Open?
It was a good test, man, and it was really, like you said, I think Bobby Mack coming out was the big story, and I think he's even part of the story coming into this week because he withdrew from the Memorial. He's not playing. He wasn't lying when he said he's going to go to Scotland and party this week.
Is that official now? I didn't see that earlier. Is that now official?
He has officially withdrawn. So he is officially on his way back to Scotland to go on a bender, I would assume, before going to the U.S. Open.
That's kind of, I mean, that is kind of funny, but that's also kind of crazy to me because it's like you're in great form. Like the Memorial is, I think, it is one of the bigger purses of the season. You kind of want to keep your form and keep going up until the major next week. So like, why? Like, I feel like, can you just hold off 2 weeks to party? But I guess not.
No, he's a national open king. I don't know if you saw the list going around of all the national opens that he's won, but it's absurd. Like, I'm pretty sure like the Open Championship and the US Open are like the only two he hasn't won. Like, he's won them all over the world. It's crazy.
Well, the Scottish Open, where he was going to win last year, and then Rory kind of stole it from him. So yeah, that's fat. I mean, I wish I knew that he was the champion of Open Champions last week. Maybe I would have bet on him. So yeah, that was a fun event. I think Hamilton might be my favorite event on the circuit for the Canadian Open. That was a great golf course, great challenge. Like, it wasn't too easy, but it wasn't crazy hard. It was like kind of the perfect course for that kind of an event.
No, absolutely. I think you said it perfectly. Like, I think it could be had, like your boy McNeely coming on Sunday, and like you could put a low score on the board, but at the same time, if you weren't sharp, if you didn't have your game, you could also put some big numbers on the board as well. So it was like that perfect mix of what I'm looking for from a non-major, essentially, which is I want bad shots to be penalized and I want good shots to be rewarded. And that's what we saw, I think.
Yes. So now we are on to the Memorial, Muirfield Village, Jack's Place, of course. I mean, key things about this event, you don't really need to be driving the ball long. You can kind of target shorter hitters here. You got to hit ball strikers. Guys are going to hit greens, and guys who are going to be able to get up and down if they miss greens. That's why I've never been betting on Victor Hovland at this event. But then he won it last year. Sometimes even if it doesn't necessarily play to your strengths, sometimes it's just a good course for someone's eye and they do well. So do you have anything else to add about Muirfield Village?
No, I mean, it's Ball Strikers Anonymous, man. It is absolutely a ball strikers golf course, which makes sense because it's Jack Nicklaus, who is historically one of the best ball strikers we've ever seen. So The fact that he's rewarding that doesn't shock anyone.
Yeah, and it has played tough at times too. Victor won last year. Was it 7 under or 9 under that he won it last year?
I believe it was 9. It wasn't in a playoff with Denny McCarthy, or did he avoid the playoff with Denny?
No, it was a playoff. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have seen, I think, it get as low as 16 under. So there's been kind of a variety of different scores here over the years. We don't usually give prop bets out. But I will give one out at the top of the show here, and that is for it to go to a playoff at 3-1 because it's gone to a playoff 6 of the past 10 years. We've seen this event go to a playoff, including 2 of the last 3. Victor Hovland playoff with Denny, 7 under. He won it last year. Playoff with Denny McCarthy last year. Patrick Cantlay went 2 years ago against Colin Morikawa in a playoff. And then from 2014 to 2016, 3 straight playoffs. And Bryson DeChambeau also won in 2018 in the playoffs. So for it to go to a playoff, and it makes sense that, of course, it's kind of this tough. 3-1 is probably my favorite prop bet of the week.
Yeah, 3-1. That feels that's well worthwhile for sure.
Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think we can just jump right into our picks here. Yeah, let's start with top 20. You kind of stole this one on me. This is a guy I like as well. I'm also going to bet on top 20. I'm also betting on him to win. So you like him as well. So break down your top 20 pick.
Yeah, it's Billy Horschel. And we don't have the BetMGM odds yet. So this is, Ty's not included in the odds you're going to see today. But it is plus 190 at DraftKings. But Billy Ho's form this year, man, it's been a real rebound from what we saw last year when he was really kind of lost in the wilderness. His last 2 starts, just a super recent form, T8 at PGA Championship and then T24 at the Charles Schwab. Both of those events, he gained more than 3 strokes putting, and then he gained more than 7 at the Schwab. He also gained on approach in both events, but I think what we've really seen from Billy Ho is kind of just he's playing professional golf in a really weird way. Like he is putting good rounds together, even if one part of his game isn't necessarily treating him properly. And so I think that's a really good sign, especially for what Memorial demands. Like you can succeed here without ball striking if you're putting the lights out, which we've seen Billy Horschel do as of late. So I think getting him at top 20, given that he has such a good history here, 3 of his last 5 starts have been a top 15 finish, including a win in 2022, obviously. So I think you're getting this kind of plus money for a top 20 with Billy Ho with how he's played this year, I think is a lot of value.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I like him, is just because sometimes you just got to bet a horse for the course, and that is Billy Horschel at Muirfield Village. Missed the cut here last year, but I think we can forgive that because of just he was lost, as you mentioned, at this point of the season last year. He's found his game again. He's 11th in total strokes gained this season. He's a scrambler. He can get up and down from all over the greens. So yeah, Billy Horschel. I bet on him to win as well, but top 20 is probably the kind of way to bet Billy Horschel. I think his experience of this course is good enough that he knows his way around here, and he can get a top 20. So I got him 80-1 to win. Top 20 is probably the way to go though.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't go win. I mean, I'm not going to hate on the pick because obviously I like him this week. I think he's a great fit. But if I were gonna get aggressive, I'd probably look at a top 10, something like that. But I do think a top 20 is the safe play.
My top 20, it's kind of a safe play here. And it's kind of similar odds. Plus 180, and that's for Jason Day to finish in the top 20. You will hear sometimes, and I've bet on him at this event in the past too, because this is technically his home course, but he's also gone on record saying he only plays it during tournament week. So I think he lives like a 5-minute drive away. I think he lives in Muirfield Village, but don't go ahead and bet big on Jason Day just because he lives around the corner, because apparently only plays it during tournament week. But his style of play does kind of fit up Muirfield Village. His strengths kind of fit the strengths of it, especially his short game this season specifically has been very good. He's been a really good scrambler this week. I'm not getting too crazy with him. I'm not going to bet on him to win or anything like that. And he has had some solid finishes here as well. I think, did he win this event back in the day too, or no?
Ooh, that's a great
early
question.
2010s?
I feel like he did.
I should have this in my notes, but I don't. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. But he has had some solid finishes here. His style of play does kind of fit this course well. Sticking with the top 20 bet, Jason Day plus 180.
I'm not going to hate on it, especially as a top 20 play. If you're betting him outright, I might have a little bit of qualms with it, but I don't. With a top 20, it's hard. I mean, and especially in a 70-player field, you're asking him to finish in the top third of the field. Jason Day is a top third in the field golfer on most weeks. So
yeah, that's a good point about how many people are in these signature events. It does kind of take away from really attractive odds when it comes to top 20, because even some guys further down the odds list who are long odds to win, their top 20 odds aren't super long, just because there's a third of the field almost is going to finish in the top 20. Let's move on to top 10.
Top 10, I'm going with another guy who I think you bet on earlier this season. He's not typically my guy, but Keegan Bradley, top 10, plus 450 on DraftKings. His recent form is another one. He's another guy who's had tremendous recent form. last three results are T21 at Wells Fargo, T18 at the PGA Championship, and then T2 at the Charles Schwab. And the stats back up why he's been able to do that. He's over the last 20 rounds, he's 7th in strokes gained approach. He's top 15 on approach from 175 to 200 yards and from 200 to 225 yards as well, which are very key ranges at a not super long, but relatively long golf course at Memorial. It's pretty standard in what it's looking at. 6th in par 5 scoring also over that span. And even more, with the big key with Keegan, I think it always is he's a gaining with the putter. It's a slight gain, but he's been gaining with the putter over that span as well. His history at Memorial is the one thing that worries me. I think his last 2 starts are a T30 and a T37 finish, so that's not ideal, but I think he's playing a lot better golf consistently this season than we've seen him play over the past couple of years. And so with his form, with the way he's been finishing, I'm getting a little bit more aggressive than I probably normally would with Keegan Bradley, but I think a top 10 is very much in play, especially with how he's striking the ball right now.
Yeah, I like it. No, yeah, I did. I think I did bet him top 20 or something. Maybe it might have even been close to the win pick, but yeah. All right. Keegan Bradley, top 10 plus 450. My top 10 pick, I'm going to go Benny on plus 360 to finish in the top 10. Outside of the T43 at the PGA Championship, pretty good form before that. Solo third at Wells Fargo, T4 at the CJ Cup. He has had, at least at times, has had success at this course. He finished back in 2018. He was a runner-up here at the Memorial. So, and also, I mean, 11th in 2016, 25th, which is not bad in 2017, 17th in 2019, and last year, 24th. So, like, he has had some pretty solid finishes here. We're not asking him too much here to finish in the top 10. I'm not going to bet on him to win outright. And his short game at times has been pretty solid, especially his putting, especially at Wells Fargo, gained a ton of strokes putting. So, if he can kind of keep that putter hot, then I think his name will at least be around the leaderboard heading into the weekend. So plus 360, I like those odds on him to finish in the top 10.
I love it as well. I looked really hard at Benny on. Didn't find a place on my card for him, but that doesn't mean I don't like the pick, because I think if he's on, his game absolutely suits what you need at Muirfield Village.
Yep. All right, moving on to top 5, which is the least surprising pick until I saw your pick to win as well. So top 5, give it to me.
Yeah, we're going with guy I've never bet on once in my life before, Ludwig Aubert. He's back in the field after missing the cut at the PGA Championship and not playing since then. Obviously, that's due to the knee injury that he withdrew from the Wells Fargo with. Yes, I am worried about that. Yes, I do pick him a lot. No, I'm not going to change that, because I think Ludwig is one of the best golfers in the world, and I think a lot of courses on the PGA Tour really suit his game. His profile, when I look at it, it feels like a perfect fit for Muirfield Village. Last 20 rounds, this is where he is statistically. 1st in strokes gained off the tee, 6th in strokes gained approach, 1st in strokes gained putting on bent grass, which is what we're going to be putting on this week, 2nd on approach from 175 to 200 yards, and 2nd in approaches from 200 to 225 yards, 10th in par 5 scoring. He literally checks the boxes of how you want to score at Muirfield Village. He also ranks pretty high on bogey avoidance. The PGA Championship numbers kind of affect that a little bit, but prior to the PGA Championship, he was top 10 in that as well. I think as long as the knee is not a problem, which he's taken 3 weeks off since the PGA Championship, that would be the only concern I have. I think he's probably feeling a little bit better. He is a younger guy, so I'm hoping that helps him heal a little bit quicker. If the knee's not a problem, he should absolutely be in the top 5 and at the top of the leaderboard at this tournament.
I'm out on him. I'm out on him until he can prove that his knee is feeling. The miscut of the PGA Championship for a guy his talent level is concerning. The other thing I will say is his play around the greens has not been great. Losing strokes in 3 of his last 4 starts around the greens, which would be a little bit concerning for me for Muirfield Village as well.
I understand that. I will tell you, and this is a little secret behind Cody's handicapping. I would say in 95% of golf tournaments, I completely throw around the green out of the window. It just does not matter to me.
I mean, it makes sense when you look at the golfers who we bet on are all guys who stink around the greens.
So the one thing, and I think this has probably poisoned my brain to the point where I can't like separate myself from it hardly ever. But one of the things I look at is, when you're talking off the tee, when you're talking approach, when you're talking putting, those are 3 things you're going to do on basically every single hole you play. Correct. Yes. there's a lot of times where you're not going to see around the green play. That is such a smaller sample size. So the volatility and what those strokes gain numbers means to me means a little bit less than it was what it does in those other categories. Now, obviously, like if you're a huge loser in those categories, yeah, it's probably not a great thing. Like, you can make a double out of what should be an easy, up and down par. But I do think that there is something to that it should not be weighed as heavily as some of the other metrics.
All right. Fair enough. Okay. We'll see. I'm gonna for my top 5 pick. I'm betting on a guy who, and I think in golf betting generally, what you kind of want to do a lot of the time is start betting on a guy when his odds are long, but you're seeing his form is kind of rounded into form a little bit, and I think that's what we're getting with this guy this week. So I'm going to take a shot. This is plus 850 to finish in the top 5 if I got the odds correct. Now that I'm saying that, it sounds long. Did I copy down the wrong odds? No. Plus 850. Tom Kim. I think now is a time. I've been out on Tom Kim for a while. I think now is a time to buy some stock in Tom Kim, because when you look at 5 straight starts, he's improved. T52, T47, T26, T24, and then T4 at last week's Canadian Open. He gained strokes in all 4 areas last week. His approach game was starting to look good. I think now is the time to buy a little bit in on Tom Kim. Now, maybe you don't want to get as aggressive as I got with the top 5 finish, and I also bet on him to win it like 70-1. Maybe you just want to go top 10 or top 20 at a little bit shorter odds, but I think in some form, I think now is the right time. I think it's a good time to buy low on Tom Kim is basically what I'm trying to say. So that's what I'm going to do this week with the top 5 bet.
Yeah, you're kind of stealing my thunder. I kind of had him circled as a dark horse for next week at Pinehurst because I think he's a great fit there. And I think the way his form is trending is setting up for a pretty good week at Pinehurst. So I'm 100% with you on this.
Yeah. All right. I like that we agree. Your pick to win. I argued with Ludwig. I'm not going to argue with this one. So, but it is just the most classic Cody betting card of all time for top 5 and pick to win.
Yeah, because your argument would be the exact same argument because his short game has been awful. But it's Victor Hovland, the defending champion. And I guess my safety blanket, I guess, is probably like, whenever I don't know what to do, just bet on Victor Hovland and that'll make everything good in the world. Obviously, his start to the 2024 was just horrendous. And a lot of that was attributed to him kind of doing some swing searching. And he had split with his coach, Joe Mayo. And everything looked like it was just falling apart for him. Well, he got back together with Joe Mayo, and then he finished solo 3rd at the PGA Championship. Gained more than 10.7 or 10.5 strokes with his ball striking. Seemed to find everything he had been missing. And even when he was struggling, his approach numbers from the key range of 175 to 225, still some of the best on the PGA Tour. That's just where he thrives with his irons, and that's the range we're going to see a lot this week. Obviously, he knows how to have success in Memorial. We saw it last year, even though he had never necessarily had the success that his profile suggested he should have previously. But I think we're seeing him I think he really found something in the PGA, and he's just had a few weeks off now to work more with Joe Mayo and really get back into those good swing feels. I think this is just going to be another week where Victor Hovland is once again asserting himself as one of the best players in the PGA Tour. And kind of quietly, he kind of needs this. He is currently outside of the top 50 in the FedEx Cup standings. And so I think for him to kind of get this season back on track, he needs a strong summer. And I think this is a great spot for him to start getting it going.
Yeah, one thing he has that Ludwig doesn't have is kind of at least if you look at the most recent start, his form's trending in the right direction. Where that's kind of my biggest issue with Ludwig is just his performance at the PGA Championship and that knee. So defending champ, game trending in the right direction for sure. As long as he can carry how he played in the PGA Championship into this week, then he's going to be in contention for sure.
Yeah, and he showed some positive signs at Wells Fargo. It wasn't consistent, finished T24 there, but he gained with the ball striking for the entire week and started to seem like he was trending a little bit. And then it all came, obviously came to a head at the PGA Championship.
Yeah. My pick to win is a guy who I also bet on. I tweeted this out. I bet on him to win the U.S. Open next week at 90-1, which is still available at FanDuel. By far the best odds. So if you want to jump on that, you can do it. Corey Connor. So I got him at 55-1 this morning at DraftKings. He's down to 45-1. I don't know if there's a 55-1 still on the board, but I got to take my fellow Canadian here in Corey Connors because his ball striking of late has been unbelievable. 3 straight starts where he's gaining significant strokes ball striking, where he's leading the field almost. in ball striking. But the big reason why I'm jumping on him now, last week at the Canadian Open, when he finished solo sixth, gained plus 1.73 true strokes gained putting on the field. And Corey Connors has always been that guy where you look at him and say, hey, if you could just sink a few putts, you'd be winning almost every week. Last week, he sunk a bunch of putts. Now, maybe that's an anomaly because, with everyone, kind of good putting weeks just kind of happen randomly. If it's an anomaly, then whatever. But if that's not an anomaly and he's figured something out on the greens, he's going to win soon. Might not be this week, might not be next week. But he's going to win soon because his ball striking numbers are out of this world. Last week, he could have won, but his driving was strangely not great, especially his accuracy. He's a little bit wayward off the tee, which kind of ended up costing him. That's usually not an issue. If he drove as well last week as he usually does, I think he could have won. So I think everything's coming up Corey Connors. And his style of play, I think, fits Muirfield extremely well. His play around the greens is a little bit sketchy at times, which makes me a little bit nervous, but he's had some solid results at Muirfield as well. I had that here somewhere. Yeah, 13th here in 2022, which is a pretty solid finish. So 55-1 on a guy who not only is, striking the ball at some of the best levels on the PGA Tour, but he might have found something with his putter as well. So Corey Connors.
I mean, it's hard to argue with it, especially I see what you're doing with trying to capitalize on if he found something with that short game, because his ball striking has never gone anywhere. It's never the last tournament. I just looked this up. The last tournament that he lost strokes ball striking was the Open Championship last year.
Yeah,
it's been almost a year since he lost strokes ball striking, and he only lost 0.12 in that tournament. So he's not losing. He wasn't even losing a ton. So if he finds something with that short game, which has been abysmal for most of this year, to be very clear, but I do think that last week is a good sign. Hopefully, it wasn't just being home in Canada and being comfortable on the greens in Canada, but at 55-1, it's really hard to argue with.
Yeah. He has finished T13 or better now in 3 of his last 4 events. T11 at Zurich, obviously that was a team event. T13 Wells Fargo, T26 PGA Championship, and then Solo 6 last week. So, yeah, I don't think that 55-1 price is still available out there. If it is, jump on it. But to be honest, I don't even really hate it at 45-1.
No.
All right, let's move on, and we'll wrap up the show with this closest to the win, where we each pick a golfer that's at least 100-1 odds or longer to win. And then the golfer between the two of ours that we picked that finishes further up the leaderboard or closest to the win gets a point. And at the end of the season, the loser has to pay for a round of golf for the winner. I've taken a commanding lead, but last week got on the board. So with Ryan Moore, who did at least make the cut, where did he finish?
T60, baby. T60.
But all he had to do was make the cut because I was on David Lipsky, who did not make the cut. So just by making the cut, this was already decided by the weekend. So you have closed the gap, 10-4. You still got a lot of work to do, but 10-4 is better than 10-3. So you've taken one step in the right direction. So your pick to win, you're close to the win pick this week is a guy who's at 220-1.
That's right. It's Lee Hodges. I have no idea why it's at 220-1. Yes, he's not a favorite by any stretch of the imagination, but 220-1, come on, guys. He finished T12 at the Memorial last year, his first time playing at this tournament. And in his last 3 starts, he has a pair of T12 finishes, including a T12 at the PGA Championship and a T24 at the Wells Fargo. Last 20 rounds, he's 17th in strokes gained approach in this field and 12th in strokes gained putting over the last 16 rounds. He doesn't have the perfect profile. He's not the most accurate driver in the world, but the way he's playing on approach and the way he's putting right now, that's obviously yielded some pretty good finishes. And so I'm not really looking at the number. I'm looking at the player. And at 220-1, Lee Hodges is, I think, mispriced. And so I'm definitely going to hop on that, and especially for someone who finished in the top 15 last year.
All right. Like I usually do with close to the win, I'm not going to argue against it because it's 220-1. So I like it. I'm going to go with, I picked a Canadian to win. I'm going to go with a Canadian for close to the win as well. I'm going to go Adam Hadwin, who's 150-1. Basically some pretty consistent results at Muirfield Village is why I'm going to take him here. T18 at this event in 2022. But throughout his history, I mean, he's only missed the cut, 3 times, but dating all the way back to 2015. T11 again in 2016. And Adam Hadwin, a lot like really a couple of the other Canadians, it's kind of hard to predict when he's going to have a good event because he'll randomly finish in the top 5 and then, do nothing for a month and then finish in the top 5 and then do nothing for a month. So I guess I'm just going to hope that he's going to, have one of those blips where he plays really well. Did not play well last week at the Canadian Open. But one of his biggest strengths is play around the greens, which I think, even though Cody, you're not a believer in strokes gained around the greens, I think it's going to be big at Muirfield Village this week. And that seems to be his biggest strength, at least this season. But yes, I mean, T4 at the Genesis earlier this season, which was a signature event, T5 at the Valspar. He had T6 at the American Express. I mean, he randomly has like top 5, top 10 finishes. So he's going to be my pick for close to the win.
No, and I'm American Express, that's Torrey Pines. And Torrey Pines has some pretty strong correlation to what we see at Muirfield Village. So I don't hate it. And like you said, with Adam Hadwin, he's a tough guy to bet on because he is so – you don't see it coming. He's not a guy you see it coming with whenever he has a strong finish.
Yeah, it's not a guy where like his form just kind of gets good and then you can jump on at the right time. It's just randomly blips up out of nowhere. He'll finish in the top 5. So I'm hoping that's one of these weeks. So yeah, 150-1, close to the win out of Hadwin.
Yeah, again, hard to argue with, especially at 150-1.
Yeah. All right, that is the Memorial Tournament, and then next week it's the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. Excited. Do you have any futures locked in yet for the U.S. Open?
I have not locked anything in just yet. I will probably put something down on Tom Kim if he plays well in the first round. All I need is 18 more holes to see Tom Kim doing it, but that's someone who I have a note jotted down beside right now.
I did have a Wyndham Clark future at one point, but I cashed it out because he's just not been playing good at all. Just abysmal at the PGA Championship. So I ended up just cashing that out. So now the only one is the one I placed this morning, which was at FanDuel 90-1, which is, at least the books I looked at, by far the best price for Corey Connors next week.
I haven't priced anything. Do you know what Bryson's odds are? Because we're talking about someone who now has 2 top 6 finishes in the first 2 majors of the year and can seemingly just attack any golf course he wants to.
Yeah, you probably missed out on that with him, playing well at the PGA Championship. 20-1 seems to be the pretty consensus odds for him. But
I can stomach that. It's not, favorable, but I can stomach that.
Yeah. Interesting. So that's going to be next week. I just wonder what Tom Kim is at right now if he wanted to go that route. 55-1. I would have thought longer than that.
I definitely would have thought longer than that. Maybe yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, FanDuel had the best price for Corey Connors. Maybe they have the best price for Tom Kim. Let me check that, and then we'll get over here. $75-1 at FanDuel.
Oh, that's a little bit more. Now we're talking my language. Yeah, that's what I want to see.
All right, that's our show. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe to the BetSide of the YouTube channel, and we'll be back for the U.S. Open at Pinehurst next week. Cody, do you have a final thought?
I can't wait to go to Pinehurst. That's my my neck of the woods. Grew up in North Carolina, so excited. Yeah, excited to be back there. I expect some winners next week then. I don't know if you know how the season has gone for me, Ian, but that's a tough ask. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Talk to y'all next week.